Why taking dispassionate action towards your goal is the best path. Overly excited or obsessive or tightly controlled action around your goal can lead to mental and perfectionistic energy, which assigns mental and emotional importance to your goal. And this can lead to balancing forces coming in to thwart your goal, frustrate it, or give you an equal and opposite experience from the experience you're desiring. So the universe wants to see us evolve and achieve many of our desires and goals, but on its terms, not on our terms. Our terms are often fixated mental and emotional terms. We're often creating from an energy of lack when we're fixated on getting a desire, a particular goal that we really want. We're coming from a place within ourselves that's feeling inadequate or lacking or feels like it can't be happy until this particular goal, this particular reality that we really want to live is achieved. So we find ourselves coming from these wounded parts of ourselves, these inner childhood wounds that were never healed, that have just been acting out their challenges, their dramas, they're stressful trying to get out of the world, out of the universe from this very limited felt place, this very lacking felt place. And when we do that, we often create excess potential. And I'm going to reference a book here called Reality Transurfing by Vadim, Zeland. Really good book. Also kind of a challenging read, but what he calls are these we create from our energy of really trying to get a goal, really trying to achieve a desire, and placing a lot of importance on that goal or desire. That creates excess potential, which then creates balancing forces to balance out the energy that we're putting out. So, if that energy that we're putting out, we're trying to achieve a goal from a very tightly wound, tightly controlled, forceful, I'm going to achieve this goal no matter what. Not to say that having certainty about desiring to achieve a goal isn't a bad thing. It's good to have some confidence there, but too much confidence and too much forcing, oftentimes, if we're forcing, the underbelly of that is that we don't actually feel very confident. We feel like we're lacking and we can't be happy or feel satisfied and fulfilled until this particular goal is achieved, this particular thing in the material world is manifested, achieved, and gotten for us, whether it's money, it's a romantic relationship, a trip, a weight loss goal, whatever that might be for you. We come from a place of feeling like, I need to do this. I need to achieve this goal. I need to achieve it by 2 months from now or a year or whatever that timeline is. But when we put those time constraints around our goal, that places a higher importance on the goal and achieving that goal in a certain timeline or window of time. And that creates a lot of energy in us that gets us kind of revved up, like pushing and forcing for that goal and fixating and thinking about that goal a lot. And while that might motivate us, we find ourselves creating what's called excess potential and balancing forces to come in and out, if that makes sense. That's what the universe cares about. It cares about keeping a balanced order. So whenever there's this excess potential that's created by driving a particular goal or desire or whatever it may be, driving some kind of initiative, like companies, this can also be applied to organizations, like driving a certain initiative very hard with specific timelines and all of these parameters around it. This almost always creates excess potential, which then brings in these balancing forces to give us what we don't want, the opposite of our desire, equal and opposite outcome. If it's a lesser degree, it's going to frustrate our goals. We're going to run into problems that will slow down that goal, especially the more we're attached to accomplishing a particular desire or goal in a specific timeline and we're giving it a lot of importance. The more likely we are to see that desire and goal thwarted or have roadblocks and delays come up to slow it down, that equal and opposite reaction or outcome is going to come in and basically stop your progress. And you're going to experience a lot of challenges and probably give up on the goal at some point and think it's impossible for you. And then possibly create a victim story around that, which will create a very low feeling identity, which maybe the identity you were going for was rather high or ambitious. You wanted to feel better about yourself. You wanted to feel safe. You wanted to feel supported. You wanted to feel taken care of. You wanted to feel loved. You wanted to feel wealthy and abundant. You wanted to feel really strong or fit or whatever that is, really attractive. I don't know. It's different for everyone. Likely, we're going to end up feeling the opposite of that because we were coming from a space of lack and pushing and striving and feeling like we needed to achieve this goal in order to feel better. So the universe is going to mirror that back to us. We can relate to where we've gone for something and that thing didn't actually work out in the way that we wanted it to or planned or hoped, trying to achieve from this place of forceful trying to get, like pushing, putting ourselves out there a lot. And it's great to put yourselves out there, but reality transurfing does say the wisest path. It's not really spiritually about high or low or anything like that. It's just really what's wise in relation to spiritual laws, like to universal laws, would be to take more of a dispassionate action. It doesn't mean you don't have to care at all about your goal. It just means you have to care less about achieving whatever goal or desire you have on a specific timetable or timeline, because the more you detach from achieving whatever goal you have in a specific timeline or way, you're also fixated and attached to it coming in a certain way. We've built up this one potential in our mind of how it's going to come in for us. I've certainly done that myself before, gotten very attached to that and found that when I do that, there's either lots of delays related to that or it just definitely doesn't happen. People feel that something's off about my energy when I do that too. If I'm applying for a job or whatever it might be, there's just something that's off about my energy that's not in alignment. You can feel that too when other people's energies are out of alignment. When they want something from you, you can feel that, right? When they're trying to get something and it doesn't feel good. You might still think they're a fine person or they're okay or they're normal because that is the normal way of being in our world in this very dense consciousness plane that we're living in. However, it's just not the wisest way to be. And what I'm saying here really goes against everything we've been taught from childhood. But we know if you're here, if you come to this channel, most of you, the reason you're here, you know that like what you were taught in childhood and from larger society isn't really working for you. Certainly isn't working for you the way that you hoped it would, even if it's working for you on certain levels. It's not fulfilling you in the way that you want it to, or you find yourself oftentimes sacrificing what you really want to fulfill what's expected of you by society and by your parents. And so you feel dissatisfied and you don't really know how to create a new reality that's outside of that normalized expression of reality that so many people are just following because it feels like the safe, secure path that people will accept and respond to you in a more respectful way. If you're saying, oh, I want to become a spiritual healer, I want to like something that's not normative. If you say you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? People are like, oh, yeah, or you're actively in law school or whatever it is. They just kind of like, yeah, they nod and say, that's great and encourage you. But if that's not in your heart, if that's not what you came here to do and you just intrinsically feel that and you know that in your heart, but you're doing that just because that's what's expected of you, then that's something to reconsider. And I think a lot of you are here because you've probably gone a path that was expected of you for a time and you're exhausted from that path, you're burnt out. Because it's not for you, it was for a time, but it wasn't for a lifetime kind of path for you. So you're discovering that this isn't, I'm not happy doing this. This isn't what I want to do for the long term. There's something deeper in my soul that's calling me that I do want to do that is more in alignment that I probably would feel more content and lit up doing because a lot of our jobs are so boring to us who've been doing it for so long and they don't light up our soul in any way. We don't feel like we're contributing in a way that's meaningful, especially if working for a corporation. We're not doing a very creative job that's soul aligned. When you want to shift gears and you want to work towards something that feels much more soul aligned and really in your heart to do, I know this is hard because it's easy to be excited about this new path. Excited and scared. A lot of you are more scared than excited. And so if you may be more excited than scared, it's great either way. Work with both of that. But whether you're excited or scared or both, it's important to take dispassionate action toward that goal. And I know that feels, oh my gosh, if I'm going to take dispassionate action, then how am I going to keep having the energy and the motivation to pursue this goal and this desire if I'm trying to come from kind of like a place where I have no attachment or fuel for it? That's something I've had to work through and I'm still working through, but it's not quite like that. You can still care about the goal, but you just can't care too much about the goal. It's important to care about your desire, or else you could lose all motivation. But care just enough, care a little bit, and keep that action as light as possible. You want to tread lightly. You don't want to be bulldozing around. You don't want to be pushing and forcing your desire into manifestation, like pushing certain outcomes in a specific timeline in a specific way that your brain has said that this is the only way I can see it happening. There's so many ways that desires and goals can manifest for us way beyond our capacity to understand or know. So it's important that we come from this more dispassionate place, more in alignment with universal law. And if we are dispassionate in our pursuit of a new goal, of a desire, then we're much less likely to create excess potential. We're much less likely to have balancing forces come in and then thwart or give us the opposite experience with that desire. We're more likely to move along and allow beautiful potentials to come in, often unforeseen and unexpected ways, and in the universe's timing, not our mind, our ego's desired time. Showing the universe, too, that you are working with its universal wisdom and laws, and that you are willing to put your egoic tensions aside, your egoic notions of how it has to come and in what time frame it has to come, or even it coming or not coming is something that reality transurfing does teach us to actually accept the fact that it may not come, to not dwell on that fact, not obviously that it's not saying to do work against your desires by doubting them, but it is saying to simply acknowledge in your heart and your mind body space that this desire may not be meant to come into manifestation. If that's the case, I have to accept the possibility of failure. That's another powerful lesson because if we're really attached to desire, the possibility of failure often is something that we don't want to acknowledge or think about at all. Or if we do, sometimes we're focusing too much from that doubting place and we're in a state of worry. Worried, is it going to come? How is it going to come? Why isn't it here yet? Why didn't I make this such and such progress by such and such date? Then we'll oftentimes beat ourselves up, or people in our environment connected to that desire. So we oftentimes get judgmental about ourselves, about other people who might have some power to help us manifest that desire or work with us. We tend to get kind of desperate and really push in ways that will create a lot of excess potential and balancing forces that will give us opposite experience. Because if we're coming from a place of really pushing, we're coming from a place of feeling like we lack that. We're telling the universe, I don't have this thing that I really want, and I really need it to feel okay. I need it to feel happy, fulfilled. So that's the signal we're sending out to the universe when we're coming from a high level of importance surrounding our goals and desires, which is unwise because it's going to give us a lesson that mirrors back that sense of lack, that sense of not enoughness that we're putting out into the universe energetically. It's going to bring back that energy. It's going to mirror back and show us where we're falling short, coming from a place of lack, limitation, not enoughness, frustration, not feeling like we're good enough or we can have that. It's going to bring experiences into our life that oftentimes are the opposite of what we were desiring or hoping for, or delaying the desire that we want. So I think if you're here, if you clicked on this video, it's most likely that you've experienced some level of this in your own life, felt that frustration, experienced some delay, maybe in some cases gotten the opposite of what you really desired, and that was mirrored back in your reality. And it felt very discouraging. Maybe you went into giving up that desire and feeling defeated and thinking, this desire is impossible for me. And that's not the case. It wasn't that the desire necessarily, I mean, there are some cases where desires maybe aren't meant for us. That's up to the universe, and we have to accept the possibility of failure according to Reality Transurfing. However, a lot of desires are for us, especially if they're coming from our heart and our soul, and they're not just coming from our mental mind space. I believe that universal source consciousness, God, whatever, the creator, universal source consciousness likes to experience itself through us. We didn't create these bodies. We didn't create our breathing, our heartbeat. We didn't create our DNA and our cellular structure and trees and plants and animals. We can acknowledge we didn't create that yet. We are still a part of universal source consciousness. And so universal source consciousness wants to experience itself through this physical manifested human body. There are these levels of different consciousness and materiality, manifested materiality being just a very small fraction. If you delve into any kind of quantum science or have listened to Joe Dispenza, it does say that these bodies, these physical manifestations that we enjoy every day are such a small, itty bitty fraction of what's really out there in the quantum field. Just minuscule, but it is the lowest form. And then there's the mental plane. There's the physical plane, the mental plane, and the spiritual plane. But maybe we could also think of that as the unmanifested, the quantum level of birthing things. It was the mental plane. We've been gifted the ability to think and feel. And so there's something there for us that's important that we take into our consideration, remembering that we are not these physical bodies. Ultimately, we are both physical. We both have a physical expression, a body life force, but we are also greater than that. We also have a soul life force, and the universe does want to experience itself through us, through our human bodies and our consciousness, which is, of course, greater than in the mental plane, too. That consciousness wants to experience itself through us. So we can realize that, yes, like we wouldn't be created the way we are if universal source consciousness didn't want us to experience our desires and goals, especially if they're more true soul aligned goals. At the same time, it wants us to learn the lessons along our path, along our journey of discovering like our true creative power. It wants us to work with its laws on the universe's terms, not on our egoic terms, our coming from our childhood woundings from our parents, our grandparents, extended family, from society, woundings from past jobs, whatever we have. It wants us to learn to be the creators of our reality, the reality we really desire, the reality we really want, instead of being a victim, feeling like a victim. We're never truly a victim, but we oftentimes believe we're a victim. We feel that we're a victim because so many circumstances have seemed to really work against us, have seemed, and that's that excess potential balancing forces, these challenging lessons that we've had to learn throughout our lives, these difficult and very painful childhood experiences, not feeling seen, loved, heard, supported by family members in our life early on. Also, having that be what's experienced in society as well, oftentimes feeling manipulated by larger bureaucratic structures, institutions. All of that can be discouraging over the course of a lifetime. Human nature to feel discouraged after experiencing so much lack from the circumstances you were born into, the circumstances that society sets for people to control people and keep the power systems already in place running just as the status quo. We know this already. That is a very painful wounding to experience that for so many years, decades, over the course of a lifetime. And it's only natural then be coming from a space of feeling lacking and wanting to experience the opposite of that, like real joy, real fulfillment, real happiness, real security. A lot of us, basic security, feeling safe in our bodies, feeling safe in our lives, having enough has been something we felt we've had to struggle for. And so if that's the place you're coming from, it's understandable why you would pursue a particular desire that would alleviate all of that suffering that you feel, all of that not enoughness, help you finally feel secure and safe and comfortable in life, taken care of. It's perfectly understandable why you would want to chase that desire or try to force that desire or goal, especially if it's money or a particular job that you think is going to bring that level of security and safety to you, or experience, or a body type like weight loss, whatever that might be, because you're feeling not enough. You're feeling inadequate inside. It all makes sense. I've been there. I've had a lot of times of really being in a dark, complaining place in my life and feeling like a victim. And it really got me nowhere. It just got me more feeling like I had no energy for life and kind of giving up at times. And at other times, I've been at more of a pushing stage of life where I had a lot of energy, but it was overly energetic and too excited and scared at the same time and trying to force and push for things, have that excess potential be created and balancing forces come in to thwart those desires and make me feel like I can't have that, but I can't manifest that because look, I tried. Here's the evidence. I tried pretty hard and it didn't work. It just life, the balancing forces came in to expose how I was showing up in the world at the time, I even had a mini experience of this recently. I have a goal of becoming kind of a lightweight bodybuilder. It's a fairly recent goal, but I've been on a fitness journey for the past 4 years and have felt really good about that and have enjoyed the progress and the changes in my body and the strength that I've gotten from this journey so far. And I just felt like I want to level up and take it to the next level. So started a goal of, you know what? I never thought I could do it, but I'm going to try to be a lightweight bodybuilder. We'll see how it goes. But I found myself in those early weeks of starting this new goal, getting a little bit attached to it, getting a little bit obsessive in my thinking, being focused too much on measuring outcomes and progress. I was being asked to do that with a particular coach that I'm working with, which was helpful and at the same time kind of making me more mental. I got an Apple Watch to help me monitor and track things. Again, made it a little exacerbated some of those mental pieces of it. And found myself undermining my own goals. This might have been as a result of being so attached at first to resisting and tweaking the results a little bit and mismeasuring things. And so didn't see any progress for a week and a half or two. There was no result or progress, plateaued, and actually felt kind of like silly and embarrassed because I was placing too much importance on like losing a couple pounds or just like feeling more sculpted and looking more sculpted and feeling more sculpted and muscular in like such a short amount of time because I was putting in the work. I was walking every day. I was going to the gym twice a week, going to HIIT training twice a week as well, like doing a lot. And I was even starting to tell people here and there, yeah, I'm becoming a bodybuilder. Like from a slightly inflated place, not overly super confident about it, but there was a little tinge, something there that was off in my energy about it because I was coming from feeling like not enough and lacking and not good enough as I am already and not accepting the potential possibility of failure too. It was such a strong choice and a lot of force was there and a lot of importance was placed on it. So this is a very micro, small example. It ultimately doesn't matter so much, but it's a good example of a situation that happened recently where I found myself, and thankfully I caught it pretty a week or so into acting like this. Thankfully, it was short lived, and I'm starting to come back from it and soften my energy around it. Realize I'm just going to enjoy this journey and celebrate whatever progress I have, not place so much importance on this, come from a more dispassionate place. And it brought me back to a spiritual teacher I hadn't listened to in a while that I've started listening to more so I can really calm down my energy around this particular goal and feel more into my being and my body and be less concerned with how it manifests and what timeline it manifests. Even if it manifests at all, even if the possibility of failure is always there, I've relaxed that goal of this timeline that I had built for myself. What if it takes some years? That's okay. It doesn't matter how long it takes ultimately. And I can enjoy working on this goal, whether I get to that ultimate end or not. I can enjoy the journey. I can enjoy the process. I can have the experience of feeling stronger and looking a little bit better in my perceived view. That's always relative. Everyone has a different perspective of what looks great and what doesn't. Society has its own perspective too, but we each have our own goals, and that's a beautiful thing. I just wanted to say that relaxing that and coming back to this particular teacher who's helped me to calm down my energy, relax, be more in my body, be more quiet upstairs in my mind because it just felt very noisy there for a week or so. It was like, what is happening? I was starting to feel like kind of crazy for a couple days to a week just by being too obsessive in my thinking, like feeling like I needed to take on the energy of a professional bodybuilder like right now and be that right now in order to manifest it. And that was really the wrong approach. The was a very unwise approach. And it was creating some actual like thwarting and delaying the outcomes I wanted. I was doing extra work, eating less, but not being totally in integrity with my logging. I created that circumstance because I was feeling frustrated. This should happen. And I should be able to just get these results with all this excessive exercise, with ideally not having to change my diet too much. I had these judgments around how it should be and was trying to force like because I felt more comfortable doing the extra weightlifting and the extra walking and exercise part, but felt less comfortable with doing some of the cutting work that's necessary. Like it's a healthy cutting. This is not, the slow, gradual, healthy cutting, but still, there was a part of me that really resisted that, especially because I'm trying to build this muscle and working out so hard. But that was actually working against, and that was another force that I didn't even realize for the better part of a week, actually more than a week. I think it was a little more than a week. I didn't even realize that as I was pursuing this new goal was creating some problems. It was creating this frustration. Why hasn't anything changed? Like my clothes don't fit any better. I was trying to avoid the scale too, but I knew that nothing was really happening much because I was so fixated on getting to that goal fast and seeing results fast. And it was kind of obsessive. So it was very unhealthy. And I was feeling like much more mental. I wasn't enjoying the process. I was feeling kind of grumpy. I'm starting to find myself in a complaining space. So that's when I knew, okay, something's off about the way I'm approaching this goal. I need to go back and reread some parts of Reality Transurfing and listen to audio books that support me on that as well. It also called me to come back to Mooji, one of the spiritual teachers I discovered 8 years ago, but had not listened to for some time. Coming back, he's helping me come back to a more grounded and quiet place within myself, which I'm very grateful for. Helping me realize that I'm here to enjoy the journey and I am not this physical mind, body, space, whatever this is, spacesuit. At times I feel like it, but ultimately, especially as I continue to identify with this body and I feel that I'm just this body and I'm not looking beyond and I'm fixated on one material goal I have for myself. And while I do feel that it is a soul aligned goal, because I actually love the process of working out and getting strong so much. So that part of it feels like soul aligned, and having the goal of becoming a lightweight bodybuilder might encourage me to continue to be in that joy and to love building more muscle and while working towards what feels like a soul aligned goal. The way I was approaching it, the energy I was coming from, placing excessive importance on this goal and putting time pressure on the goal, it was causing me to be more out of integrity, not measure things properly. I felt like I was making it harder for myself and stressing myself out. And that brought in some level of balancing forces to show me where my shadow was in this, where I was being out of integrity, that resistance to measuring, with the over exercising to a degree, getting the opposite of what I was hoping by the level of effort I was putting in. I was pouring into this. I didn't see any change. I might have gained a pound or two. I ended up finding myself laughing about it. I caught it within a short frame of time, and it got me to come back to some more tried and true resources wait, something is so off. I can feel that I'm just not in alignment and I'm really frustrated. That's a good sign that you're oftentimes placing too much importance on a desire or goal if you're feeling frustrated a lot. That's one of those early emotions that come in, that frustration. And if you feel yourself getting really mental too, obsessively thinking about one particular thing that you desire and criticizing yourself or judging others around you too. And that's another sign too. Like I felt that I was in quite a judgmental place too for that time. So, having said that, I just wanted to share that example. It's more of a light example that I think maybe is relatable for those who haven't maybe had the experience of harsher forces coming in for something bigger. But also, we can have more challenging experiences than that. And also, placing importance on a goal can run for a lot longer and, of course, create that excess potential. And then balancing forces, which can actually, if it run, the longer it runs unchecked, the life unexamined, the mind unexamined, without that awareness and coming back to the longer it runs and keeps being placed in such a high level of importance with a lot of force, pushing that, trying to push that goal forward in such a forceful way, oftentimes with a specific timeline in mind, that is likely gonna, the more those balancing forces are gonna come in and show you where you are misaligned with your soul and with what actually universal source consciousness wants you to experience in this human body, which is not always what you want to experience, right? It has lessons for each and every one of us that it wants us to learn and understand so we can evolve and grow our consciousness and be conscious creators in the world and create lifelines and realities that actually feel really fruitful for each and every one of us. It's different for all of us. So it wants us to experience, it put this in our path. It put these desires in our bodies, in our body, mind, heart space, because it wants us to pursue them, but it wants us to learn to pursue them from a dispassionate and soul aligned place. And again, dispassionate doesn't mean you don't care at all about your desire, because you actually can't really move towards a desire if you care nothing for it. But it means you care, but you only care so much. You don't care in a forceful mental way. You are checking any energies of lack and limitation and I need to get this in order to feel better, in order to feel fulfilled, happy, okay, safe. Like when you come from that place, that's when it oftentimes creates this excess potential and balancing forces that actually mirror back that lack and limitation that we're putting out and that kind of show us the parts of ourselves that we've disowned, denied, and projected out onto the world, onto others, instead of bring back this energy into ourselves, accept it and love it within ourselves, and allow it to move through us in a healthy, loving way so that we can be more free to create our life from a soul, heart aligned place. Move in a quiet way towards what we really want, right? And it's okay to want these things and to still have some sense of lack within yourself. It's not like you have to eradicate all of that. That might be impossible for a lot of you, impossible or not. It's being mindful about the energy you're coming from when you pursue your goals. So it's being mindful that even though I have this sense of wanting or needing this thing, I'm going to be mindful to first, check if it's even a true goal for my soul and my heart, or if it's just something I logically think I need to pursue. That's kind of number one, because if it's just something it's a logical pursuit and it's not a soul heart aligned goal, it might not ultimately be for you and might not be something worth pursuing. But if it's more of a soul heart aligned goal and you've already kind of checked that through your system, then it's really important to be mindful and to work with that part of you that feels like it needs to pursue this goal from a space of lack and limitation because it didn't have XYZ things. Support and love are perfectly beautiful and wonderful things to want and to work for. However, we have to be careful about where we're coming from and how much we're pushing towards a goal. It's wiser to take more dispassionate action from a quiet place towards that goal without putting a time constraint on it, without putting a how it needs to manifest constraint on it. allowing the goal to manifest as it's meant to for you, for your highest and greatest good, and giving that to your higher power, universal source consciousness, whatever you call it, allowing the universal source consciousness to direct and guide your goal, to guide your life force too. And that's not being passive. You must be active in this journey, but it's being active from a more relaxed, calm place within yourself, a space that's willing to be out of your head and more in your heart, and allowing your mind to rest more and more in your heart, more and more often. Settle down into your heart and noticing in your body, mind, heart space, noticing when you feel yourself getting tense and starting to complain and starting to push and force and put all these dictates out. That's all coming from ego. That is not your true self speaking. That is coming from a wounded part of you, wounded inner child part of you that didn't feel loved, seen, heard, safe in childhood. And it feels like survival, life and death. And it's coming from an extreme place, oftentimes, when it's pushing and trying to force and place all these constraints on it. And it's perfectly understandable, but it's considered very unwise to pursue any desire or goal that you have from that space. So, what we can do is slow down, acknowledge the possibility of failure with our goal. Just acknowledge it, not dwell on it, allow that that's a possibility. Nevertheless, I'm choosing from my heart soul space to work towards this particular goal or desire, to not place rigid timelines, maybe very loose time possibilities, but not rigid time structures on it. Focus too heavily on one specific way that the goal or desire can be manifested. It's very important to take aligned action and to listen to your soul, your heart space, especially your soul, any intuition, downloading intuitions that come in. It feels different when it's an intuition from your heart and soul than it does with your head. But listening, especially to those intuitive downloads or hits that you get that are telling you to maybe go this way or do this. And it's usually a very quiet voice versus a very loud, obnoxious, obsessive voice. So that's how you know the difference. But especially listening to that, the voice from your higher self, the voice from your soul that might be intuitively telling you to check into this thing, reach out to this person, go online and look on this site for a few minutes. If your soul is saying that, follow through. If your head is obsessively like on and on, which it can do, then that's to be ignored and relax, not to be mean to your mind or put yourself down for having these thoughts, but to allow the thoughts, but not follow them, not do everything your mind is telling you to do. Instead, give yourself quiet space, meditative space. I know we've talked about this in previous videos in this channel too. You might go back to some of my old videos and look at them, or other guides or resources you have that would support you in helping you become a little bit more quiet and work through some of this difficult wounding or this feeling of lack and limitation, this inner child wounding. Like when I'm feeling especially triggered, like feeling like in a blaming state or a complaining state within myself, just feeling really deflated, feeling not enough, like my goals have been thwarted or I'm not getting anywhere, feeling very frustrated, then it's a good time for me to go and do a radical forgiveness worksheet, which I talked about in one of my past videos. That is basically doing some parts work here to work with an inner child that's hurting and to release and to radically forgive someone or something or yourself from your past who really hurt you. It could be yourself, another person's, oftentimes a parent we felt betrayed or hurt by, grandparent, or whoever represents that for us. Forgiving that or forgiving a specific situation, it can help release the energy so we have more space to be grounded and come from a place of inner peace and slowing down and relaxing. This work is an everyday kind of commitment. It usually doesn't work for people where it's a one and done thing. You do one meditation one time and then you're just good to go forever, or you do one radical forgiveness worksheet and never have to do another one. It doesn't usually work like that for anyone. All the more power to you if it does work for you. But that has not been the case for me. And I find myself needing to come back to these resources and practices on a regular basis, almost daily, and giving myself that grace of time to sit in a quiet space within myself, to feel into my body and being, body, mind, heart space, and allow myself to really listen to listening to that greater quality, that intuitive rustling in a way that has something beautiful for us and is asking us to follow our heart and our soul. And our soul really does have our best interest at heart and wants us to manifest our desires and goals so long as their soul and heart align. So the more we listen and we have this space to listen from a quiet space within ourselves to that heart and soul aligned inner knowing, the better off we are. Thank you. Bye.